All right, Jenny. Jenny, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I'm from Colorado, the Front Range, about an hour north of Denver.
And tell me about your childhood. You had both your parents as
I
a
did,
kid?
I did, and I didn't. I was an only child. I like to joke that my parents did it right the first time, so they didn't have to have any more kids. But really, my grandparents lived with us, my mom's parents, and my grandma was sick from the time I can remember. She passed away from emphysema when I was 10, and my grandpa was more like my dad than my real dad was. Me and him kind of had a strenuous relationship. My mom was this comforting, loving mother, but she was also an alcoholic. And I just remember when I was young, before I knew what that was, my mom would be there 1 minute, and then, at some point in time every day, she was a different person and not somebody I really cared to be around. And that was a continuous struggle my whole life up until she got her DUI when I was about 2 weeks from having my first child. So, but she was always kind of begging my dad to tell me he loved me or remember my birthday or, just tell me that, like, I was good enough just the way I was, but I never really felt like that was the case. He got me
How would you describe your childhood?
lonely.
Lonely?
I think lonely would be the perfect word. I don't feel like I ever really fit in anywhere. You know what I mean? I kind of was a floater, I never had like a group or a clique or, real best friends, like my mom's my best friend now, I wish I would have listened to her when I was a kid when she said, it's more important to have a couple good friends on one hand that you can count rather than have everybody be your friend, So I've pretty much lost touch with everybody from school, So I'm probably a little ashamed of where my life went. I was a stay-at-home mom of 3. I had my first kid at 20 years old, got married, currently going through divorce. I just kind of, I don't know, I started to grow resentful of my husband, of my kids, never having time for myself. And I've always struggled with substance abuse ever since I was young, or addiction. I had an eating disorder that started at 11 when my dad got me a personal trainer. He didn't realize that was the way it was going to go. He thought he was being helpful, and it was more hurtful than anything. And once
Because it
again,
made you obsess about your
yeah,
body?
yeah. And then I've been to rehab once, and as soon as I started not using drugs, it went right back to the food issue, and the gym issue. I couldn't, I used to go to the gym and, I'd eat 500 calories, but then I'd want to burn 800 calories, and I think the worst my eating issue got was when I was pregnant with my third child, Eve. I had her, it'll be 7 years ago on Christmas Eve. And I was like 100 pounds, I think, when I weighed in at my first appointment. I didn't even think that I could get pregnant because I was, so unhealthy, but I did. So I've got 2 girls and a boy. Eli turned 10 today, and then Zoe turns 12 next month, and then Eve turns 7 on Christmas Eve. So,
Do you still have contact with your kids?
not really right now. I've tried to go home and get sober multiple times, and I always, it always starts I smoke some meth, then I go right back to shooting heroin, and then when I came to California, it was to get sober, ironically, and then I found fentanyl, and that was 3 years ago.
Fentanyl is your drug today?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that I have to be able to function like a normal human being, you know what I mean?
But you use others as well?
Yeah, but mostly speed and fentanyl. So, but so yeah, I was like 20, 25 the first time I ever tried speed. I was working at a bar, and there was a lady there who brought some to work. I tried it, fell in love with it. 3 days later, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'd been up all weekend. My son fell and hit his head, and we had to take him to the hospital to get stitches. And here I am, strung out 3 days, like, feel like shit, like, terrified of what looking like I'm, in any way under any substances, And so then for another 2.5 years, I was sober. In that time, I also quit drinking. I had a problem with that as well. That was just, that's the easy option. It's the most acceptable used substance,
Yeah, you can buy it anywhere.
Yep. My kids used to call it the sucker store. We'll just put that that way. I mean, if that doesn't say that we were there probably more than we should have been.
Do you feel like the eating disorder, the alcoholism, or the drug abuse are just interchangeable versions of the same thing?
Yeah, I think it's just me trying to get control of my life and losing control, and like this is probably the worst it's ever been. Like, I feel like LA has me by like a ball and chain, you know what I mean? Fentanyl's not as, used or it's not as easily accessible in Denver or in any other state. So it's kind of like we're stuck here, It's like almost like I'm scared to leave because I don't know how I would be able to, I've never gotten sober since I started using it. So, yeah. So it's kind of like, I feel like I'm, stuck here. But yeah, I just remember that, I was 27, almost 28. And the second time I ever used speed, a girlfriend of mine gave me it in a syringe. And I wanted to try shooting up just one time because I'd heard how it was different than getting high any other way. You know what I mean? It was more intense, more, everything was better about it. And I'm always like, go hard, go 100%, you know what I mean? Like the fast, the bigger the better. And so I did a shot, and by Monday I was buying my grandma's, diabetes needles at Walgreens, after that I tried to quit. I told my husband what I had been doing. I think I told on myself because I knew that I was going to start using again at some point, and then that way he would be able to pick up on the cues of what was going on, because I was pretty good at hiding the issue, but it didn't help with the depression, with me feeling like I'm alone. It was hard having kids at such a young age. To me, 20 is like way too young. All my friends were going to college and traveling the world and getting married and just, doing all these crazy, awesome things. And I was sitting at home with, 2 kids. And I just felt like I hadn't done what I was supposed to do in life. I didn't, you know what I mean? I always thought I was going to be something other than just a mom, but now I realize how important it is, how that job really was like amazing. You always wish for what you don't have, and then sometimes, you realize the grass isn't always greener on the other side, But,
What do you say to people that would say your judgment or your something is wrong about your behavior, thinking, whatever, that you're abandoning your kids for drugs? It's not the issue, is it?
No, I mean, it's not the issue, no. I love my kids more than anything in the world. But it's a lot harder, it's a lot easier said than done when you have a substance or a chemical that if you don't have it, you can't function, you can't sleep, you're vomiting, you're shitting yourself, you're fucking got like cold sweats and body aches and you're just, it's like the most intense flu of your life. Like you can't, it's hard to know that you can take something and it's going to make it all go away, like right away. You know what I mean? I haven't been able, and not having my kids here too it makes it harder to want to quit. You know what I mean? They're kind of like my driving force.
But didn't you start using again when you had your kids at home?
Yes.
So that decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I made that choice. I guess for some reason, I never really thought that, like, you know, I watched my friend, the one who gave me my first shot of speed, I watched her lose her child and lose her job and lose her car and her home. And for some reason, I still never thought that, like, that would happen to me. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. I mean, our brains can lie to us and tell us things that, you know, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. I was not using, you know, my frontal lobe very well, you know, like rationalizing and thinking about how is this going to affect me next week or months from now.
Was it that your mental state was not what it should have been at that moment?
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
What, I'm just trying to get
yeah,
a grasp
no, depression is, it was my outlet. It was what I had found that took all of the feelings that I had away. And, you know, it didn't really take them away. It just kind of numbed them or you know, pushed them way down deep so that I didn't have to feel them anymore, you know? And the euphoria of the drug made me feel okay, you know? And, well, that doesn't last very long, you know? It goes from good to bad real fast. And, you know, before I knew it, I was in rehab. I got 90 days sober. I went to my graduation. It was the day before Thanksgiving and my daughter's birthday. Zoe's birthday it was Thanksgiving of 2019. And I relapsed that night. Once again, my brain told me, like, I could just go do a shot, just one, just to celebrate, you know, like to show that I did it, you know, and like, and, you know, not even a week later, I was kicked out. My husband found all of my shit, and I haven't been back since. My relapse date is December 1st. It'll be 4 years since I've been gone. So, it's hard. I'm not sure if my youngest daughter would even recognize me if she saw me on the street. Yeah. You know, she was 2.5 when I left, and she's 6 now. So, you know, that's a really, that age range is, you know, you grow up a lot. You know, you don't remember a lot from when you were 2, rather than when you were 6, you know. So.
And I'm sure there's lots of shame and.
Yeah, that's
depression.
The hardest part, I think, is when I go home and I see how how bad I've hurt my family, you know. My parents. My mom got lung cancer. Thank you. And of course, I feel like I'm to blame for that. The stress that I put her under. I'm afraid that if I would have been there, like that, you know, she would have never got cancer, got sick. But she's doing good now, so that's good. She's had biopsies every month just to make sure that the cancer hasn't come back, and it hasn't. And she found out, that was 2 years ago, she found out she had cancer on my daughter Zoe's birthday, the day before Thanksgiving. So that was really hard for me to handle. And the fact that I still didn't go home and get my shit together. I tried. When I found out she was sick, I was in Denver. I hadn't talked to her in probably 6 months. My aunt called me and let me know how she was sick and I needed to go home because me and my mom are really close, and she said, you're going to be what keeps her alive, you know? Like, you guys are one and the same, and she needs you to be there for her. And I still fucked up, you know. I don't know. I don't know what, I don't know. I guess you know, people always say you got to hit rock bottom, but I feel like I've hit that point more than once in my life. It's almost like I feel comfortable there, I guess. I don't know.
And fentanyl's a very difficult drug to
it's
break away from.
It's harder than heroin. It's harder than meth. It's harder than anything that, you know what I mean? It's almost like oxygen. You feel like you have to have it to survive, you know? And it sucks. And it was like, it was great when I started. It was like $10 a day and I could be well and be fine, in and out of all the overdoses that I had. I've overdosed from the time I started heroin in Colorado to here 24 times. And I'm talking like dead, heart stop, like, not breathing, lucky to be alive. Some of them were intentional. The first one I can remember really well. I wasn't expecting to come back. I was almost angry when I woke up and saw where I was, and I felt terrible because, my buddy from rehab had saved my life and I was almost angry at him. It was a weird feeling to know that it's wrong to be mad, but I was angry. I felt like it was just going to be easier if I disappeared, Easier on my kids and my mom. They wouldn't have to worry anymore, But I'm still here, so must be a reason.
Yeah. Your story is a good glimpse into how stuck in quicksand you are now.
Yeah.
It's not just common sense. You certainly seem intelligent enough to go, oh no, I need to stop this and go back to my kids. It's not about that at all.
Yeah. Trust me, I think about them every day.
Yeah, and then you torture yourself for being in this situation, right?
Yeah, I've always been good at that. My mom has even told me, she's like, we love you and forgive you and we want you home. It's not about that. She said, Jenny, it's about you learning to forgive yourself. And she's like, and I'm scared that you might not ever be able to do that. And if you don't, it will kill you. Yeah. Forgiving myself has always been the hardest,
I think there's some wisdom in that.
Yep.
Do you feel like you're in some ways, the role models you had, your mom was an alcoholic and
yeah.
My
my dad was, he drank too, but he just didn't, I would say he had a problem with it, but he wasn't like as sloppy as my mom, like my mom, I remember it was my senior year of high school, the day before I graduated, and I was rushing her to the emergency room to get her head stitched back together, because my dad had been drinking too. And at the time I wasn't drinking yet. But
the fact that you were just exposed to that as a child, kind of, I think it opens a door for maybe in the worst case scenario, in a bad situation, when you're depressed or when you're not, when you're in a weakened state, to put yourself into a similar situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like, substances have just always been.
It's what you're familiar with.
Yeah. And like my mom and my aunt have both said, when my aunt called me and told me my mom was sick, she said, Jenny, I understand now why your mom always was coddled you and was so, always protected you. She said, you need to look up the term indigo child. She said, you're an empath and you always have been, and you feel like the pain and the weight of the world is your own pain. And that's the other problem I have, is that I grew up always wondering why I felt certain ways and didn't know why I felt that way. And it was because it wasn't really what I was feeling. It was what other people were feeling. I can walk into a room and not even talk to somebody and know already how they're feeling, and I didn't understand at a young age why people would come to me and tell me all their problems and then leave feeling refreshed, and I would feel like I was drained, and so I took in everybody else's pain to make them feel better, because I always was a people pleaser, and I think that was the biggest issue with me and my dad, is I never got that approval from him, that I wanted so badly. But, I can't blame him for where I'm at right now, that's my choice to put a needle in my arm, I can't blame that on anybody, even though I know that he feels like he's to blame for that. And now he's wearing that, he's got that burden on his shoulders. So I guess I just really didn't realize that I was going to affect so many people other than myself when I made that choice to use, you don't think about how you're going to hurt everybody around you, you know.
Yeah, I mean, your intention is not to hurt your children or
Correct.
abandon them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is not
my kids, I never, they were always fed and clean and they went to school, but, I gave them all iPads to play on, when I would want to go out and get high. They never saw me get high. I never got high around them. So I think, the emotional aspect, I was not there like I should have been as a mother emotionally. But I went through the motions of all the other things I needed to do, getting them to school, those kinds of things, But I should have known when I missed my daughter's first recital at school because I was waiting to pick up some dope. I should have known then that, it's only going to get worse from here. I just didn't realize how bad it was going to get, So.
All right, Jenny. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you.
I wish you the best of luck. I hope you get things together and get back with your kids somehow.
I'm working on it. So I'm inside now, so that's good.
That's great.
I've got
that
a place to live. Yeah,
it helps to be out of
It's definitely helped a lot.
Street.
Having a shower and a toilet is amazing.
That's a great first step.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.